Jon Stewart made a comment recently that Trump is no Hitler, specifically because Hitler was popular and Trump is not popular at all. His polling is abysmal, he governs largely by executive order, all of his policies and their execution are wildly unpopular with the American people, and even his landmark Big Beautiful Bill has been called the most hated piece of legislation since the 90s.
Now, these are the measures of the economy, right? But how do Americans actually feel about it? And all I can say is they feel awfully about it, because take a look here. Percentage who say that we're on the right track when it comes to inflation. Just 20%, just 20% of Americans say we're on the right track. The vast majority of Americans think we're on the wrong track when it comes to inflation. What about jobs? Just 27% of Americans think we're on the right track when it comes to jobs in this country. So we're talking about under 30% on two key economic metrics.
Of course, Trump said that it was the most popular bill ever because he lives in a world where if he just says something enough times, people will believe that it's true. And he's right to do that. His supporters live in an alternate reality that he has specially curated just for them. The only things that they care about or believe are the things that he himself says. So he keeps repeating nonsense just to fortify that hold he has on his base. However, it seems that even his base is dwindling. When even Fox News has a hard time spinning the actions of Trump and his administration to their audience of Trump loyalists and apologists, you know that Trump is in trouble.
The president putting on his finest tux, and Melania looked dazzling in her gown. So Trump's clearly at the top of his game as he drives the news cycle every single day. But the Democrats' cranky Cajun thinks his presidency is over.
But it's like I think we'll look back at this and it will become kind of a funny little thing to remember all the times they told us that it's over with, and then you could like list all of his accomplishments after this person said it's all over with. We got him right where we want him.
Donald Trump says we have the hottest country right now, so he didn't get the memo that everybody else is talking about.
If he were at the top of his game, the Indiana state Republicans would have approved his maps. He threatened them publicly, privately, calling people, getting bomb threats, going after individuals, and they would have succumbed to him, but they didn't. They voted against it. A change in approval amongst those who strongly approve of him. So of 2024 voters for Trump, March, 66% strongly approve. That's down to 50%. A 16% decrease in the first year of his administration. People are saying, we put you into office to lower our prices, to fix the economy, and you're building ballrooms. You're telling us we can only have 2 pencils, and that we
beautiful ballrooms.
When all of the evidence contradicts his own words and assertions, he's in trouble. He was smart to come out swinging in 2015 with his fake news rhetoric, something that many of us, including me, said at the time was a big problem and was going to become an even bigger problem. But through his strategy of repetition, he's managed to sow distrust in practically every institution, media or otherwise, to the point that his supporters don't even know what's real and what isn't anymore. Granted, the 24/7 access to the internet and social media, and now AI, has helped with that, so we can't give Trump all the credit there, though we know how much he loves taking credit and receiving awards for things that he didn't do and didn't earn. However it happened, most Americans now live in a world where facts are relative and reality is subjective, if not altogether optional. And to that point, Trump has decided to sue a poll because he doesn't like the polling results. In another episode of Trump not understanding that being a billionaire won't make people like you more, Trump has announced on Truth Social that he is going to be going after the New York Times Siena poll because it is, quote, always tremendously negative to me. The poll currently shows Trump underperforming, which is putting it nicely, on practically every measurable metric, including the economy, immigration, and the Epstein files, all of which should have been Trump's bread and butter for his second term. He also said that the real polls are nicer to him, but no one wants to print those. Here he is at Davos, of all places, bragging about how popular he actually is.
That was so strong just prior to that, and I was with the 2 best pollsters, McLaughlin and Fabrizio, and they said, sir, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back and ran as president and vice president, they couldn't beat you. And then what happened is the following day, I was told to stay tuned because there's something really bad happening in China. There are bodies laying all over Wuhan, right around that certain building that we talk about. I always said it came from Wuhan. It did come from Wuhan.
The Siena poll that Trump's mad about, the most recent one at least, shows that 56% of voters disapprove of Trump's job performance across the board, with more Americans likely to back a Democratic candidate than a Republican one. Bad news for Republicans for the upcoming midterm elections. Even more damning, Trump is losing big with independents more likely to vote for a Democrat by a 15-point margin. And here's more from Harry Enton at CNN on Trump's polling.
Donald Trump's economic net approval rating, it is just flat out awful, and it has declined precipitously since the beginning of his second term in office. Look at this. Trump's net approval rating on the economy. In January, he was in positive territory at plus 6%. Way down he goes. Now, according to the latest Reuters Ipsos poll, he is 25 points underwater. Donald Trump was elected to fix the economy. It was a strength for him during his first term, but at this point, it is an anchor on him, and that is why we're seeing poll after poll after poll showing him with a net negative approval rating, and in some polls, the worst approval rating he has had in his entire second term.
So 49%, practically half of registered voters, think the country has gotten worse since Trump took office, compared with 32% who think it's improved. I'm really not sure what they're basing that judgment off of. Also, in what I'm sure is a major blow to Trump's ego, 40% of voters think he's too old for the job. Embarrassing. 42% think that he'll be remembered as one of the worst presidents in history, and 58% disapprove of his handling of the economy, which is historically the single most important and influential issue among voters. And despite his efforts to pretend that affordability isn't a problem while also saying that it's something that should be discussed more before chastising people for discussing it more, 51% of Americans blame Trump and his policies for making life less affordable. But as you can see here, he's in the red on every issue polled except for the US-Mexico border, where he is barely hanging on with a 50% approval. Everything else is red: managing the federal government, Venezuela, immigration, the economy, foreign relations, Israel and Palestine, cost of living, Russia and Ukraine, and especially the Epstein files, where he only got a 22% approval for his handling of the files. But Trump and his team, despite resorting to litigation to pretend the bad news isn't reality, have leaned on the fact that Trump actually won the popular vote in the last election. They insist that the people voted for him because they knew what they were getting and because they knew how he operated, so those same people should still love and approve of everything that Trump is now doing. We know that that isn't true, though. So many people who voted for Trump did so because he's told them that he would make life more affordable for average Americans. He said he would release the Epstein files, and he said he would rid the country of gang members and rapists and terrorists. He also said that he would be pursuing an America First strategy throughout his second term. However, once he got elected, I don't need to tell any of you, he didn't do any of that. In fact, he did the opposite of what he said he would do in most cases, and then some. The American people, including those who voted for him, saw grocery prices go up, not down. They saw working people, tax-paying people, nonviolent people, and people actively pursuing citizenship through legal avenues abducted by ICE. They even saw a white American woman shot by an ICE agent. They saw Trump continue to fund Israel's onslaught in Gaza, and they bore witness to his imperialist agenda. They listened to him lecture and chastise them for asking him about the Epstein files, telling them to get over the files and move on. Now that he's returned from Switzerland, he's mad that even the other world leaders don't like him. He tried to set up a ceremony for his Board of Peace signing, but less than 20 countries showed up, which is far less than what he was hoping for. Notably, France, Germany, Canada, and Ukraine were missing from the invitees, and according to reports, Caroline Leavitt was the only person often loudly clapping for Trump as he spoke. Oh, also, Putin and Lukashenko had also been invited to participate in Trump's Board of Peace initiative. Also, it cost $1 billion to participate on the board. And I'm gonna leave it right there, all right? That's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.